What up, and welcome to Woodward Waits live on Woodsports.com. I'm Easy, joined by Smo Rex.
Hello.
Young Chris Nicholas Koloff.
Let's
also
go.
Joined by John Costco from PFF. What up, man? How are you?
Good, man. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Appreciate you joining us.
How'd you feel about your Browns draft?
When you don't have a first-round pick and your last team to pick in a draft, it's maybe a bit underwhelming. But I think I like the players that they got. I like Michael Hall Jr. I think he's going to be a good defensive tackle. I think Zinter can develop into a good guard. He's going to have time behind Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller there to develop into something. And then Jamari Thrash with the 156 pick, I think it was. Really good route runner, like one of the best in the class, and then also excellent after the catch. So, they have a deep team, right? So like none of these guys are going to start for them. They weren't drafting for any starters at this point because they're already good. So I like the quality of players they got. I think they're athletic. I think they can contribute, and there can be good solid depth pieces for them long term.
And we talked last year about the Lions secondary and the defensive backs and what was going on there. And now they added a couple guys in this draft in Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakeshaw Jr. go on top of guys they signed in free agency, but strictly looking at those two rookies, what do you think they bring to this team?
Yeah, obviously the Lions have like completely revamped their secondary in one offseason, which is awesome because they ranked 30th in coverage grade last year for us. And when you have that, that's like, hey, we have a clear weakness here. We have to fix that. So with Terrion Arnold, guys are mostly an outside corner, had some experience this past year in the slot, but really good long speed, recovery speed, good agility, acceleration, had really good on-ball production. Over the past 2 years, has 26 forced incompletions, 6 interceptions, 5 just last year for the interceptions, and 15 forced incompletions last year. So really stepped it up in his final season at Alabama. A guy that, like, when you listen to him talk, I love his mentality as well. Like he's going to be a really good player in this league for a long time. So they got a really good one in there in Terrion Arnold and Rakeshaw. He's not a guy that's a great man coverage corner, but he's going to be better in the zone. A guy that they can allow for, say, Brian Branch to move around more often than just being in the slot. So I think Rakeshaw is a guy that can be a slot type of guy. Really good in zone, like I said, and I think he's a super physical guy as well. So he can be a guy they interchange there with Branch, but they just have now some really good quality depth with him. And I think he's another really solid player. He doesn't have the on-ball production that like Terrion Arnold did. Just one interception the past 2 years. Did force 16 incompletions over the past 2 years as well. But he's another really quality player, athletic, and going to provide some good depth for you guys.
Yeah, and that's what I think the goal of Brad Holmes was in the offseason, especially grabbing Carlton Davis and Amik Robertson, re-signing Emmanuel Mosley, is to make sure, no shade on this guy, but players like Kendall Vildor aren't seeing snaps in the NFC Championship game. And I think now that we have the depth to insulate that. Yeah,
the biggest thing for you look at Super Bowl winners, right? Like obviously it's driven by the quarterback position, but you've got to be able to stop the pass when you can't, maybe aren't clicking on offense, or maybe take a lead and you got to stop their opposing quarterback from, being able to march down the field. We saw it in the NFC Championship game last year where they had a big lead in that game and they weren't able to hold it. And part of the reason is that their coverage unit is not very good. It was really kind of some unlucky situations that happened for them in that game. But essentially, if you have a secondary that can lock it down, you're going to be able to stick with teams because, if you want to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes in that offense, like you've got to be able to have good cornerbacks to match up. On top of being able to get pressure on those guys. And the Lions already have a really good front seven that's going to be able to get pressure on quarterbacks. So they really needed something in the back end to hold up when pressure doesn't get there, to be able to make plays in coverage. And they definitely did that this year with all the additions that they've made. They completely revamped that secondary. You often look at this teams that, like I was saying, Eagles a number of years ago when they won the Super Bowl, they had a really, really solid secondary. Even 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl and ended up losing to the Mahomes, they had a really strong secondary, and it got old really quickly, and that's why they weren't as good last year. And I think you've got to be able to continue to have depth there and young depth to be able to develop that long term and be able to trust it long term.
John, I want to ask because I kind of went through, and I know there's high expectations for Terrion Arnold. I've watched the tape. I like things that I've seen. But then I look at like some of the greater cornerbacks throughout the NFL history, and I kind of noticed like speed was like a similar trait they all kind of had. With Terrion, he ran that 4.5, and I get it's just a 40, but I guess what does that mean to you in terms of like him being this man zone scheme? Not man zone, just man scheme that AG likes to run. Like, can Terrion still, I guess, be a top tier corner, or is he just gonna be like a solid guy for us?
Yeah, I think that. So when you look at some of the best, like, yeah, some of them can like absolutely burn, and it shows on the the 40 time at the combine, but some of them just kind of run a good enough time, like. So with Arnold, he ran the 4.5. That's plenty good enough, right? Like, because it's not just like straight track speed that you need at that position. You need to be able to have turning your hips. You have to have good footwork. You have to be able to position your body and be able to match routes and stuff like that. So like doesn't matter how fast you are if you don't know how to recognize what the guy in front of you is doing and how to match that, how to flip your hips and whatnot. So there's a reason why some of the fastest guys don't pan out. It's because it's so much more than just pure speed. And he's shown it on the field that he has athleticism, that he can run with some of the fastest guys in college football. And I think, like I said, like I'd love his recovery speed and his long speed because I think he knows how to run on the football field. He knows how to play the football game, which is what you need. And I think when it comes to speed, yeah, everybody likes to look at that 40 time, but it's not the only thing when it comes to especially the cornerback position, because a lot of they're turning and not just pure straight running. And a lot of it is like when you talk about the 42, like maybe you don't have a great track get off, right? So like you're it takes you a little bit to build up the speed. So like maybe you're much better just exploding out of a normal position, and you're able to stick with guys that way, which he can do.
I appreciate hearing that from guys like you because I know that's what you do, literally. They study a lot of these cornerbacks and whatnot. I did want to ask this question, though, because we also acquired Amik Robertson, who I assume was going to start on the outside of Carlton Davis after the Cam Sutton stuff went down. But I guess, who do you expect to start there beginning of that year between Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson? And can you see one of the guys bumping into that slot spot?
Yeah, I would probably see more Amik Robertson getting put into the slot versus Terrion Arnold. And I think you'd see Arnold starting, like you draft a guy in the first round, like you're likely wanting to see that guy be able to play right off the bat. Amik Robertson he's a guy that's been placed all over the place. He mostly played out wide last year, but he did have a good number of snaps in the slot. So both guys can play both, but I think Robertson with his size is more natural in the slot than you'd say outside because he's 5'8", 183. Like he's a smaller guy, and generally that doesn't hold up well on the outside for the cornerback position. So he's a guy that's really quick. He's good and shifty. He is physical. So I think that works well in the slot. And I think it allows them to, hey, if Arnold's not ready day one, he can still play outside, and Arnold can get acclimated to playing at the NFL level. But I think Arnold can start day one. I think he's good enough to do that, and I think Robertson then kind of gets pushed into the slot. But it also just brings flexibility with all the guys that they have because, who knows if Rakestra can start day one as well. I don't think so. I think he'll see like more of a dime time package type of situations. But like with the benefit of the beauty of all this is that they have a ton of options because they have a lot of quality players now in that secondary, and they didn't rest on their laurels with the moves they made in free agency. They really attacked it in the draft with their first two picks.
Yeah, and looking at Brian Branch, I see they want to get him more involved to where he's on the field because we talked about how Kyle Shanahan ran that heavy personnel to specifically take Brian Branch off of the field in the NFC Championship game, being in that nickel spot. Do you see him bumping out to that strong safety role and kind of splitting time there with Ife Melifonwu just to get that kind of playmaker on the field more for the Lions?
Yeah, I think he should not be coming off the field. Like he's good enough that he shouldn't come off the field, and you want him. He's a playmaker. He's a guy that's going to make a ton of plays in coverage for you. He can make plays in the run game for you, and he's big enough to be able to play in that safety spot. And I think he shouldn't be coming off the field. And if you're going to be going into base personnel, Melifonwu should be the one coming off, not Brian Branch. So I get the reason, as a rookie, hey, like give you some, spell you a little bit more, and maybe we don't want you to hit a rookie wall, but I think at the end of the day, you want your best 11 players out on the field. And I think Branch is one of those guys, especially in the secondary. So I agree that I think, this allows Branch to move out of the slot and not just be the slot only type of guy, because now they have a couple of guys they can put in there, and allows Branch to stay on the field and be a movable chess piece.
Who did you have ranked higher coming out of the draft? Quinyon Mitchell or Terrion?
So I had Terrion higher than Mitchell, but like it was neck and neck, like really close. Like I had them right there with each other. I think Mitchell is really excellent in his own right. Both guys didn't I don't think Mitchell ran a great 40 as well, but he is a guy that I can't remember actually. If maybe
he ran like
did,
4.3 or 4.4. I can look it up real quick.
If he ran 4.3, then I'm way off on that. I'm thinking of somebody else who was like highly touted and didn't run super well or something like that. But then if he ran a 4.3, then obviously that's great. But
4.33.
I liked what I saw on tape and everything like that from him. I thought he was a great player. He's from a PFF standpoint, like he was the highest graded cornerback over the last 2 years. Obviously against lesser competition, but when he did go up against the higher group of five, not Power Five conference SEC teams and stuff, like he held his own. And so I think kind of like with Sauce Gardner a couple years ago, where like Sauce was dominant every single year of his career with Cincinnati, and like the only question was like, can this guy do this same thing in the the NFL? And clearly he has. I think Mitchell can be that type of, like, he can have that same type of transition. I'm not going to say that he's going to be as good as Sauce Gardner. Like Gardner's been the best cornerback in his first 2 years in the NFL. But I think for me, it was like more of like 1A, 1B or something like that for Terrion and Mitchell. And I like Terrion just a little bit better, just because I think he's better seasoned, just because of the competition he was going up against. That's literally it. So for me, I think they're both equally like talented players, though.
Yeah, I agree. I had Terrion a little bit higher. I wasn't really I thought Mitchell was a little grabby in the top of routes, but I did like Terrion a lot. But the biggest news that has come out of Detroit Lions football in the past week was Jared Goff getting this massive contract of $170 million guaranteed, a $73 million signing bonus, having the second highest AAV of a quarterback in the NFL now, behind just Joe Burrow, I believe. What are your initial takeaways from the Jared Goff mega contract?
This is tough because like I like Jared Goff as a quarterback. So when you pay a quarterback, you essentially have to pay him what the market is, and it becomes like one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. And then does that correlate to him being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? No. And he's not. Like, he's a guy that's like 8th to 12th best type of quarterback in the NFL. If everything around him is right, he's excellent. And when things break down, if like the protection breaks down or something like that, and he's got to make plays outside of structure, he's not great at it. So it's tough for me to love this contract. I love it for Detroit Lions fans though, because like you made that trade for Goff and trading away Matt Stafford, and Matt Stafford is like a more talented quarterback, like objectively than Jared Goff, but obviously you didn't have the success with Matt Stafford that you would like after picking him number one overall, and you've had more success with Jared Goff at quarterback, mainly because the team around him is a lot better than anything that the Lions were putting around Matt Stafford. So it is what it is. He's not worth that much in terms of like being the second highest paid quarterback, and he's not the second highest, second best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. But like having the stability for the Lions, I love it because, as a Browns fan and seeing like just knowing like the two franchises are struggling franchises for a long time, and now we're having success, and you're paying the quarterback a bunch of money because of the team's having success, and there's a ton of good players on the team. Going to the NFC Championship game, like just a few different bounces go your way, and you're in the Super Bowl type of thing. Like I love it from that aspect. But it's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow when you're paying a guy that's probably like maybe the 10th best quarterback in the NFL, top 2 money.
And I do think it's gonna roll down, because I remember when we paid Stafford the first time, he was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL until like 2 weeks later when Matt Ryan got his deal, and then Matt Ryan was out. And so like Dak still got to get paid, Tua's got to get paid, Trevor Lawrence has to get paid. I think those guys will all push Goff down a little bit.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it's one of those things that it's only going to be the second highest paid for a little bit. Tua's going to get paid, which he shouldn't. And then you're going to have a number of other guys that are going to get paid as well. CJ Stroud will come up in a couple years. So like number 2 will eventually get pushed down to 10, but it's like, it is what it is. It's the market that for quarterbacks, and he's going to get paid. And I think salary cap's going to go way higher, and he's going to be, it's going to be not much, I think, at that point. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I mean, great. I love it for Lions fans, and I love it for him, because I do like Goff a lot as a quarterback.
I'm definitely happy for him, like the redemption arc that he's had from being casted away to having some of the best years in his career. I think he's a way better quarterback here in Detroit than he was in LA. A lot of it's because he's more self-sufficient now. But the part of the deal that I like is essentially like it's like you took that Daniel Jones deal and you shot it with a mega ray, just because that 4th-year option is key. And we just don't know how long Ben Johnson is going to be here, and we don't know what we're going to look like without him. So I think it's like an ideal deal for everybody. I'm not tripping on it. We'll still win. Plus, everything we have that's making him work right now, as you said, he needs the pieces around him. It's all under contract right now. So I really can't complain too much about anything,
Yeah, exactly. They can easily make this work. They've got lots of their guys that are under contract. They have the best offensive line in football. And they've got playmakers at the wide receiver position, and obviously now at the tight end too. So like from an offensive standpoint, like talent wise, is probably the best in the NFL, minus the quarterback, which nobody's touching Patrick Mahomes right now, right? So like it's one of those things where it's like, can you continue to just make that team so super strong that you can dethrone these guys? And they have a team now also on a much improved defense to be able to do that. And so like it'd be nothing would be better than having a Lions-Browns Super Bowl coming up here soon and anything really. I mean, because you're talking about 2 fan bases that have never gotten to see their team in the Super Bowl, that are 2 of the most passionate fan bases in the NFL. So it would be something. But yeah, I love what the Lions have been able to put together. Just kind of the similar way that the Browns have put stuff together. They went out, got quarterback. Deshaun Watson hasn't obviously panned out for the Browns thus far. Jared Goff has much more so. So it's just one of the things that I think from a contract, players that are under contract and all the pieces that they have around them, it's great and it's working. And I think it's going to be. I don't see it crumbling at any point soon, because they've got such a great offensive line. That's what's key for Goff, really.
John, you're the man. I appreciate you joining us. I gotta ask you one real question about our guy Jameson Williams. It's been a tough make to know what the hell we have here, but this year it feels like we're going into the season with him as wide receiver 2. Do you have faith in him to fulfill that? And if not, I guess why?
So I loved him coming out, right? And you get enthralled with just the pure speed on the field and what he can do with the ball in his hands. The one thing, the way he would not work out is that his field awareness isn't great. And one of the reasons why, like, you would expect a guy like that to be, like, he was good at kick returns in college, and why he's not doing kick returns here in the NFL. Like I don't think his field vision awareness is great. And I think that's what he needs to continue to develop. And part of that is like when you miss a good chunk of your rookie year, there's a lot of data out there that says that like it's really difficult for wide receivers to actually kind of overcome that. And so like you've got twofold problem with him of like not getting much playing time in his rookie year because of the injuries he had, and then the next year he had the suspension and stuff like that. So like he's just gotten such little time to develop his skills. And you're hoping now he's going to get finally a full time being able to play that he can develop, because I think he's got the skills and he's obviously got the speed and the talent, and I think his route running is really good too. And he doesn't have to be the number, he's not the number one for sure. Amon-Ra is, and then even Sam Laporta would be the number 2 option essentially. So he's almost like a second, a tertiary target for Goff, and he shouldn't get too much attention in that regard and should be able to thrive.
Yeah, and looking at another weapon on the Lions that all of us are extremely happy about with his production last year, even though it started off a little slow, in Jahmyr Gibbs, and he was, arguably the most explosive running back in the league last year. He had the most carries of over 20 yards on the season. Is it crazy for Lions fans, including myself? I'm not going to put Lions fans lumped together. Is it crazy for me to say Jahmyr Gibbs is a top 5 running back in the NFL already?
I'd say he can be a top 10. I put him in the top 5. It's like, all right, you got Chris McCaffrey, Nick Chubb when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry might still be in that conversation. Who else we got? Saquon Barkley. Yeah. Who else do we got? I got to think about running backs. I don't think about running backs very often. I love Jahmyr. I mean, when it comes to the running back position, like, guy can just immediately vault themselves into the top 5 conversation, I think, because if you can trust him to be a bell cow type of guy, right? So right now he's not that. You've got him spelling David Montgomery. So I think with him from a talent standpoint, you could easily argue that. I loved him coming out. I think I'm not huge on running backs like in first round, but you talk about back end of the first round for the Lions to take him, like dude is a stud. When did you take him? You took him 12, didn't you?
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you maybe a bit high, but but I love his talent. Like, I think he's an absolute stud, and the more he touches the ball, obviously the better for the Lions, and they don't have to just give him the ball out of the shotgun or up from under center and have him have to find some creases in the offensive line, which is obviously a great offensive line. Get him the ball out in space, and he's just going to make a lot of things happen too. So, like, he's got like a skill set like that Chris McCaffrey type has, and only the lack of targets and touches basically is preventing him from being maybe up to that echelon. So, maybe I just talked myself into saying he is a top 5 talent at the position. So I don't know.
Let's go.
Let's go. I love it.
I got him in mind. I felt crazy doing it, but I definitely did it.
John, before we let you go, the schedule is obviously, it's coming out tonight, I think at 8, but there have been a lot of leaks out there, and one of the Lions' full
Browns
schedule
versus Cowboys
leaks says that they have a week 5 bye week. I hate that personally. A lot of Lions, how detrimental could an early bye week? Because we had someone in the chat say the last time a team has won a Super Bowl having a bye before week 8 was the 2009 Saints. So, like, how detrimental is that actually for a team to have a bye that early in the season?
I've never actually really researched it. Like, I can think about it anecdotally, and I don't think it matters all too much. Like, you prefer it later because then it splits the season up, and I think that's kind of like we get our rest type of thing. But really, like, if you're a team that gets a lot of injuries early in the season and that early rest is what you need for them to get healthy, then it works out great. But if you're a team that has a bunch of injuries that happen maybe in the middle of the season, you already had your bye, then it's obviously detrimental. So, like, I don't know, is it a little bit of a disadvantage maybe, but I don't think it's like detrimental at all. I think to me it seems like it's just more like what happens with your team in that season. And I think it really matters more of like, how does your schedule break down? Like, are you getting backloaded with like a ton of playoff teams that are going to be a lot more difficult to schedule later on, or do you get a cupcake schedule down the stretch and your tough opponents are front loaded or something like that? I think that's what matters more. And then how your home and away type of traveling schedule happens. I think that matters a lot more for teams than say when the bye is, even though obviously the bye is nice, but I think how that home and away schedule kind of breaks down is key of like how much you have to travel. Like, if you have to go West Coast, East Coast, West Coast or something like that, that's a lot on a team. So I think that matters more than when that bye is.
Yeah.
John, I appreciate you joining us, man. I appreciate you taking the time. You got anything coming out on PFF pretty soon here that people can check out? Anything's gonna piss
Yeah,
off
I'm
Lions
writing
fans?
an article. Yeah, I'm writing an article about once a week right now. I did have an article that came out on Monday, ranking like the best and weakest, position groups in the NFL. The Lions had the best offensive line in the NFL. For everybody to know about that. I've got one coming this week of just like the top 30 players over 30. I think that'll probably be published on Monday. So that'll be coming out soon. So I haven't done the research to see who are those guys yet, but I did that with Peace last year, and then I'm typically just doing an article a week. So check in once a week at PFF to find my article, whatever it may be that week.
John, I
Thank you
appreciate
so much,
again,
man.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. You have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, you
I
too,
hope
brother.
you see your Browns in the Super Bowl. That
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
a pun, by the
Yes,
way. I meant that. See you, man.
See you later, brother.
See you.